In Chapter 3, I learned that the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. When we try to focus on two things at a time, it does not go well. Like texting and driving, we are way more at risk for getting into an accident than when we're just focused on driving. Even just talking to a passenger can increase the risk of getting into an accident while just focusing on driving. I also learned about something called inattentive blindness, which is you can be focused on one thing, talking to a person, and they could leave, and it could be a different person entirely that comes back, and half the time people wouldn't even notice. There was a video in the ebook that showed proof of different people that they did this experiment with. They talked to somebody, had them fill out a piece of paper, they ducked behind the desk, another guy popped up, totally different, and they didn't even recognize the difference. I also learned about night owls, which I am, and they tend to be more smart and creative, whereas morning people, such as my mom, are a lot more punctual, they do better in school, and show much more initiative. It was really interesting to find out about the cycle of sleep stages every 90 minutes. The cycles are shorter and more frequent for the older adults, whereas they are longer and they tend to last longer for younger adults because they have longer periods of REM sleep. I now understand why me working midnight shift at work, when I get home, I'm usually pretty wired, no matter how long of a day I've just worked. My circadian rhythm is what keeps me awake when I first get home during the day because it's nice and sunny out, and my brain's telling me, hey, it's daytime, time to be awake. Until I get into my room where I have it dark, I am finally able to calm down and settle down and finally go to sleep because of my biological clock is thrown off by me working the midnight shift. I was surprised to see that it takes at least 2 weeks to recover from sleep deprivation, whereas I thought you could just have like a day of sleeping all day and you would totally be okay for the rest of the week that you could be sleep deprived for. And in this case, I'll probably never be able to catch up, or I'll have to dramatically change my sleep schedule, and that sleep deprivation can lead to problems in your personal life, such as like depression, increased risk for accidents, and weight gain. It also affects focus and attention, which I have major problems with. My dad was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and now I can see the link between that and other health issues. Once he started using his mask, he was able to go off his blood pressure medicine because the sleep deprivation was raising his blood pressure. I also learned about tolerance and addiction. My grandpa was a huge alcoholic and had a very high tolerance to the alcohol that he was drinking. I always wondered how he could drink a whole 24-pack of beer and still be seemingly fine. It was because he had built up a huge tolerance to all the alcohol he would drink every day. He used to smoke a lot as well, about 2.5 packs a day, just one right after another, and he was so addicted to the nicotine when he tried to quit that he would get hallucinations and from such bad withdrawal to it. I also learned about three major categories of psychoactive drugs, like depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens. They either stimulate, inhibit, or mimic the brain's neurotransmitters. Depressants calm down and slow down the neural activity, like alcohol, tranquilizers, and opiates, whereas stimulants excite the neural activity, which are like nicotine, cocaine, and meth. Hallucinogens distort the reality and perceptions, like LSD, ecstasy, and marijuana. Knowing this information will help me in the future career by understanding how these drugs affect a person's brain and actions and different ways that they are being affected.